Welcome back to another episode of The Cozy Kitchen. Today we are making one of the most popular crowd-pleasing dishes at any restaurant. We are making chicken parm. And today we're not just making any particular chicken parm. This is a chicken parm that was on our menu at our restaurant NANAS. As many of you know, we had a restaurant NANAS that was open during the pandemic. It was for takeout and delivery only. If you check the reviews, still 5 stars. And the chicken parm was one of the most popular dishes. People will keep coming back for it. They wrote reviews about it. I think you're in for a treat today. What you're gonna find is that this chicken parm recipe comes together relatively quickly. So it is a dish that you can make on a weeknight after a day of work when you really want a nice comforting meal and something that you can make for the whole family. This is that dish. Chicken parm is one of those dishes that I think sounds more overwhelming to make than it actually is. The very first thing that we're gonna do is get our sauce together for the chicken parm. What we're gonna do is roast some tomatoes in the oven and make a really quick sauce with garlic and basil, a little bit of salt. And that's just gonna be our sauce that comes together really quickly. Just to give you an idea of what's going on right now in the kitchen, I have my oven on, it's at 425 degrees. Today I'm gonna be using Campari tomatoes. They're between like a cherry or a grape tomato and a plum tomato. Why I like these Campari tomatoes, they're a little bit sweeter, perfect for roasting and putting together for a quick sauce. We're gonna put our Campari tomatoes on an oven safe tray. I have my tomatoes here on my tray. I just lined a tray with some tin foil, added a little bit of kosher salt to the tomatoes, added a little bit of olive oil, toss them with my hand. Tomatoes are gonna go in the oven 25 minutes. We wanna get them nice and caramelized before we throw them in the blender with the basil and the garlic. Now that my tomatoes are in the oven, we can get some of the other ingredients ready. Next thing you're gonna wanna do is just have 2 garlic cloves. Just put the garlic clove right on your cutting board, and with that flat part of the knife, you just wanna bang your fist right on the flat part of that knife, which will open up the garlic clove so you can easily peel it out. Something else that you can get ready now for later, I have about a half a cup of fresh parsley. We're just gonna give this a really, really fine chop. The next thing after our parsley and our garlic we're gonna get ready is our chicken. So we're gonna be using 2 chicken breasts, and I have these nice chicken breasts that I'm just gonna butterfly. I'm gonna stick a fork into the chicken breast just so that it stays in place. Then I'm gonna use my knife and cut from the thickest part of the chicken and then open up the breast so it's a nice flat piece. So let's get our chicken ready. I have my 2 chicken breasts that I just butterflied. So today's chicken parm recipe is not going to be using any flour. We're not going to be using any eggs. We're just going to season the chicken with salt and pepper on both sides and then put that chicken immediately into a breadcrumb mixture, which consists of panko breadcrumbs, grated Parmesan cheese, grated Pecorino Romano cheese, as well as garlic powder. So I have 1 cup of panko breadcrumbs here on this plate. To the panko breadcrumbs, we're going to add a 1/4 of a cup of grated Pecorino Romano cheese and a 1/4 of a cup of grated Parmesan cheese, as well as a half a tablespoon of garlic powder. Once you have your garlic powder, your panko breadcrumbs, and your cheeses all on the plate, you just wanna get a fork and mix it all together. Once our chicken is seasoned on both sides with the salt and the pepper, the next thing to do is to put that chicken through the breadcrumb mixture. As you put that chicken through the breadcrumb mixture, you just wanna make sure that as much of that breadcrumb mixture as possible is adhering to the chicken. After I put it through on both sides, I like to sprinkle a little bit extra of the breadcrumb mixture on the top. And then once it starts to cook in that saute pan, we're gonna add in just a little bit more as well. Before we throw the chicken into the oven, we're first going to throw it into a saute pan and cook it on both sides. You're gonna wanna have that saute pan over medium-high heat. We're gonna cover the bottom with olive oil. And as that olive oil starts to become fragrant, we're also gonna add in 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. My unsalted butter has melted in with the olive oil. The pan is nice and hot and the chicken is about to go in. Once the chicken is in that pan, you can throw in a little bit more of that breadcrumb mixture just to top it off before we flip the chicken over and cook it on the other side. My tomatoes have been in the oven at 425 degrees for about 25 minutes. They are about to come out of the oven. Remember, once those tomatoes come out of the oven, not to turn your oven off. You're actually gonna wanna raise the temperature to 450 degrees because we're gonna throw that chicken in to finish it off in the oven at 450 degrees. My roasted tomatoes have been out of the oven for a few minutes now. I'm gonna throw them into the blender with a half a cup of fresh basil, our 2 garlic cloves, and a little sprinkle of kosher salt. Blend that all together, and that's gonna be our sauce. Into the blender with the tomatoes go our 2 garlic cloves. To that blender with the tomatoes and the garlic cloves, I also have 1 cup of fresh basil. We're just gonna throw that basil in there as well. I just finished off the tomatoes, basil, and garlic with a little pinch of kosher salt. We're gonna blend this all together and get our sauce ready to go. Just wanna give it a little taste, make sure it doesn't need anything, maybe a little bit of salt if you want some extra basil. Perfect, ready to go for our chicken. Okay, so our sauce is good to go. Our chicken is in the pan. We're about to flip the chicken over and cook it on the other side. I've just flipped my chicken, and now I'm gonna get my baking dish ready for the chicken parm. First step with the baking pan, we're just going to add a nice thin layer of sauce to the bottom of the pan. My chicken cooked on both sides for about 5 minutes. We're about to take that chicken out of the pan, put it into our baking dish that we just covered with sauce. Once you take that chicken out of the saute pan and put it into the baking dish, you can add a little bit of white wine to that saute pan and scrape up those breadcrumbs and that cheese that's kind of been adhering to the pan. What I like to do is just top it on top of the chicken. We're going to top it off with a little bit more grated Parmesan, a little bit more grated Pecorino Romano, some of that parsley that we already chopped off, our sauce, then our mozzarella cheese. Throw that in the oven and get it baking at 450. To that chicken in that baking dish, I just added a little sprinkle of grated Pecorino Romano and a little sprinkle of grated Parmesan. Next, on top of that chicken, we're going to add about half of the parsley that we chopped up just to sprinkle on top. After we've sprinkled on top that parsley, we're then going to add in the rest of our sauce right on top of that chicken. This is the part where you can have a lot of fun. Mozzarella cheese and how much cheese you want to put on top of this chicken Parmesan is completely up to you. I like to buy the shredded mozzarella and just sprinkle it on top. I just topped off my chicken with the mozzarella cheese, and now the chicken is ready to go into the oven. That oven is at 450 degrees. The chicken's going to go in there until the cheese begins to melt and turn a nice golden brown. Obviously, with chicken parm, you can make a side of pasta if you want to serve it with some pasta. I like to pair my chicken parm with a roasted vegetable just to balance everything out, make me feel maybe not as guilty. So today I'm just going to be making a roasted broccoli. If you want to know how I make my roasted broccoli, you can check out my other video, chicken broccoli and ziti. You'll understand how to make that there. My chicken parm has been in the oven now for 10 minutes at 450 degrees. I'm gonna now set the temperature to broil. We're just gonna broil the chicken for the final minute just to get that cheese nice and crispy at the top. My chicken parm has just come out of the oven. That cheese at the top is nice and golden brown. We're just gonna hit it while it's still hot with a little bit additional grated Parmesan cheese and a little bit more of that parsley that we chopped at the beginning. Since we used basil for our sauce earlier, if you have a few extra basil leaves, I have 2 here. I'm just gonna give them a nice fine chop and top those on top of the chicken parm as well right before we serve and eat. Our chicken parm is ready to go and ready to eat. That dish came together so quickly. It's something that you can throw onto the weeknight rotation, and it's going to be a dish that everyone in the family looks forward to. If you like this recipe, please give it a like at the bottom, subscribe to my channel, of course, and check out some of my other videos as well. I have tons of content now. Happy to continue to share, and I'm glad that you guys continue to enjoy these videos. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and go make this at home. I'm gonna go outside and go enjoy it for myself. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I will see you soon.